All right, welcome everyone to the Advisor Tech Live podcast with Derrick Kinney. Today actually is not going to be live because we're recording on a different platform, but we will return to live probably tomorrow. um, Welcome, Derrick, to the show.
Thank you, Joe. Thanks for having me today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. No, this podcast initiative is a lot of fun, and this attempt to go to a daily version is a lot of people are shocked. They're like, "How in the world are you going to do it daily?" But we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Great, great.
Um, yeah, so just as a start, maybe a little introduction to who you are and what your area of expertise is.
Yeah, so I'm a former top financial advisor. I built a practice with Ameriprise Financial for 25 years, and there was a problem that I had as a financial advisor. And when I decided to sell my practice, I made it my mission to help solve that problem for other financial advisors. And the issue was so many advisors feel overlooked by the high net worth prospects they most want to attract. When they get asked the question, "What do you do for a living?" and they say financial advisor, you can predictably see people's eyes glaze over. They start to walk backwards, the door closes. And so I decided to teach them what to say so high net worth clients come your way. It helped me build a big practice, and it's helping advisors all around the country now build the practices they've always wanted.
What's your definition of high net worth?
So I think about high net worth in two ways. First of all, investable assets. Typically, the sweet spot for me is 3 to 10 million. Now, that number could be higher or lower for different people. But what I found was so many people, Joe, used to tell me, "Derrick, I need to get more education, another credential, more experience to work with high net worth people." And I would tell them, no, no, no. All you need to do is have a better understanding of the problems that higher net worth people have. And
Sure.
once people feel understood and heard and say to themselves, "Oh my gosh, this person gets me," now you have the opportunity to build a new relationship that's based on trust and empathy.
So 3 to 10 million, that's a good range. I was talking to one advisor and he said his clients making up to like 50 million per year, meaning like very high income
Okay.
clients. And he's like, everybody thinks that their life is like completely different than your average Joe working, paycheck to paycheck. He's like, they have all the same problems. They're arguing with their spouse, their kids don't listen to them, they're worried about money for different reasons. They have all kinds of stressors around their businesses. And I'm wondering, which do you feel like high net worth clients have different problems than average people? And what are those differences?
Well, I would push back a little bit and say if you have
Sure.
$50 million a year of income, you're probably dealing with higher quality problems, which is a good problem to have. But the main issue here is people are human. So when I'm on stage, for example, Joe, I typically bring a roller bag of luggage with me.
Sure.
And I say to people in the audience, the one thing that everyone has in common, we are all carrying a roller bag of luggage behind us. And when we're young, the roller bag is light. It's filled with our hopes and our goals and our dreams. But as we get older, the roller bag gets weighted down by our worries and our pain and our problems and our fears. And deep inside all of us, people want someone to lighten their luggage. And
Hmm.
what I tell advisors is, yes, you're an advisor or you support advisors, but what you really are, you are luggage lighteners. And here's what I mean by that. Everybody is carrying baggage and they're carrying their problems and their pain, but all people want is for people to get them. Some of the fastest friendships and relationships are formed just by a common enemy. For example, if two moms are talking to each other and one mom says to the other mom, "You know how it feels like when you talk to your daughter, what you say goes in one ear and out the other?" And the other mom's going to say, "Yes." And she gives you the eye roll. Yes. Well, suddenly two unrelated women relate over the same painful problem. And that's what I teach advisors is they don't care about your credentials or your experience or where you went to school or your job title. They care about, do you understand the pain I'm struggling with? For example, we had a situation recently. An advisor called me in a panic, Joe. This was about 6 months ago. And he said, "Derrick, I've got this 24-year-old next gen advisor who is struggling to attract high net worth clients. Matter of
Yeah.
fact, she's struggling to attract any client.
Sure.
And he said, would you please talk to her? So I called her and I said, tell me the situation. She said, Derrick, what's happening is when I talk to these higher net worth people, it's like I can feel them judging me in my mind. It's like
Sure.
they're saying to themselves, are you even old enough to drive? And it just cratered her confidence.
Yeah.
And so I said, well, tell me what you say. She said, well, I say I'm a financial advisor working on my CFP. We've got all these products and services, and nobody takes me seriously. So I said, would you be willing to try something different? She said, Derrick, I have nothing to lose. I'm happy to try it. So we practiced a script. And basically, the script was that when she went into a social setting, she happened to go into one at a higher net worth business owner event. And she said, Derrick, the guy asked me, he was like 55 years old. So what do you do? And I had taught her my you know how framework. And the you know how framework in this case was, you know how so many successful founders and business owners, what keeps them awake at night is worrying, will their kids mess up all they've built up and not be able to handle the wealth they inherit?
Sure.
We help them fix that.
Nice.
She said, Derrick, the guy's eyes got as big as saucers. He was like, what did you say? That's exactly what keeps me awake at night. And she said, well, I specialize in helping train their kids so they're able to take on the business and manage wealth without losing it. And by the way, I'm the youngest on the team, and they pursued me so hard because I'm really good with technology as well.
Hmm.
You would love working with our advisors. That person became a client the next week. But Joe,
Nice.
here was the lesson. The lesson was that advisor who brought me in thought the objective of that 24-year-old was to secure these high net worth clients directly. Instead, what we learned was her superpower as a young person was to attract those clients by appealing to wanting to help their kids take over the business and manage money. So what
Yeah.
I tell people is if you're 24 years old, you're a newer advisor, your age can be your superpower. No longer does it have to be a liability. It can be the greatest asset you have if you know the right words to say so opportunity comes your way.
Yeah. No, we're seeing this play out live with the T3 conference and the Future Proof Citywide conference. They're both all about technology and AI, and they're literally overlapping. So the question is, do you want to go to the Young Hip conference or do you want to go listen to the guys that have been doing it for decades? And I think that that's like, and there's cons and there's pros and cons to both. But I think that what's your take on those two conferences?
Well, so funny story. So I was actually at T3 in Dallas last year. They asked me to
Yeah.
host the podcast, and I'm interviewing 22 of the world's smartest people. And all of them are telling me, Joe, about how their products and services of all these respected financial services companies are going to help advisors save time and be more productive. Going to
Yeah.
save like 5 to 10 hours a week, like all of them. And they're all excited. Well, I finish the conference, I get back home, and I get this sick feeling in my stomach. And I'm like, wait a minute. I think advisors are going to screw this whole thing up, Joe. They're not going to know what to do with all the time these products are giving them. And
Sure.
what I realized was there's really two lanes of advisors. There's the lifestyle advisors who have a good living, they make good money, but any extra productivity savings, they're on the golf course, they're out looking at TikTok, they're looking at cat memes. They're not going to use that time to build their business. But then there's the hungry advisors. They're going to take that time and actually grow their business. And what I realized was if you want a business that's booming, you've got to focus on the human. And tech gives you space for more face to face.
Sure.
Ultimately, the greatest asset I believe that AI has, this might be my hot take,
Yeah.
is that it gives you more space for face to face. AI is not going to replace how I bring in clients. It's not going to bring in the deepening relationships. It will save me time. It'll give me the opportunity to see more people, but you want to see AI in its right role, not to take your job and not to take over your job, but to give you more ways to do your job, which is to make sure that people understand and feel heard and understood.
Yeah. No, for sure. Um, what So I've been super publicly anti-AI, specifically around creative content, writing video, photos. um, telling your story, personal branding, not using templated content. I'm very pro AI, however, in like the technology. Like it's the advisor tech space has been like 10 to 20 years behind for a long time. And
Yes.
I feel like this is almost like a COVID event for the technology space. AI is rapidly improving the tools available to advisors to run their businesses. So what's your take on AI overall, and then maybe more specifically creatively and productivity wise?
Well, when I think about all advisors have weaknesses. Some advisors are weaker at prospecting, some are weaker at marketing, some are weaker at the analytics side. And if you think AI can simply fill in for your total weakness as a human, you're flat dead wrong. What I think about AI as it's a tool. For example, if I go to see Coldplay or U2 or whatever your favorite band is that comes to your local town, do you think they arrive on stage and all of them are plugging in the amps or tuning the guitars? No, no. They've got people that do all that stuff. That's the AI. They simply show up on stage and perform those songs like nobody's ever heard them before. And I think that's how advisors need to think about AI. AI positions you for more face to face or voice to voice success. It doesn't replace it. And
Yeah.
so I believe that the doubling down, the most effective, smartest run companies today will say AI is great. We're going to fully embrace it. But the goal is not to replace the human, but to give the human more tools to connect truly with other humans.
Yeah. No, that's good. I think I personally think AI has been like massively overhyped pretty much everywhere. And there's probably a bubble of sorts. But the the way I feel like it's been so good for this industry is that the content already was kind of pretty poor quality. Like a lot of advisors using templated content, not their own content. I saw like 7 posts in a row with the exact same content, and I was like, this is horrible.
That's
Um,
terrible. Yeah.
AI is driving the volume of content and the unrelatability of content through the roof. Like it's getting to the point where you don't know what's true or false. And some people are like, oh, it's obvious what's AI and it's obvious what's not AI. But then they in the next breath they say, but in a few months you won't tell the difference. Um, so I almost feel like it's a war on truth. AI is becoming a war on truth in the content realm. Um, but for advisors that truly want to use this technology, like you're saying, to increase face time, to increase, handwritten notes that they, mail to their clients, um, that I think is they will stand out from all the other advisors. Like the difference will just like get bigger and bigger, I think.
Yeah. I'll give you an example. I worked with a client recently, a coaching client, and one of her concerns was, Derek, I want to build my authentic voice on LinkedIn.
Yeah,
And she was mentioning several things that you just said. Everything out there seems like it's copied and pasted. It's M dash after M dash after
sure.
M dash. It just reeks of AI.
Right.
And so I asked her a question. I said, her name was Jill. And I said, Jill, let me play an exercise with you here. You're about to go on stage and give a 2-minute talk on something you are most passionate about. And you've got 60 seconds to prepare it. What are you going to talk about? And within a second, she said, oh, I would talk about childhood hunger and how we're not doing enough to take care of it and how it's a cause we need to be more worried about. I said, okay, that just became your number one content pillar. And I said,
Okay.
what would be your 3 points you would talk about in those 2 minutes? So I would talk about this and this and this. Well, those become the additional pillars. And so the whole point is you can't rely on AI to know your personality. Ultimately, I mean, when you read content that really connects, you know it. Like it's like this person is speaking directly to me. Every word off that LinkedIn post, it lifts off the page. It just hits you in your gut. And you know, boy, this person understands my pain.
Right.
And so what I worked with her on was now that we know the content pillars, now we want to have you, let's write out these drafts together. And then let's have AI add in the grammar or the subtle humor or the edginess or things like that that match your personality. But so many people make the mistake, I believe, Joe, of saying, AI, create all this from scratch. And it creates this persona of you that you wouldn't even recognize that you wrote the content.
Yeah.
The goal is people are craving authenticity more than ever. And
Yeah.
that's why I think AI is great, but truly, if you want a business that's booming, you got to focus on the human. The goal is just not quantity of content, it's relatability. When people read that, do they see themselves? Do they feel like, oh my gosh, this person knows me? They know the pain, they know other people like me, and they make people feel like they're included in a cause bigger than themselves.
So it's super easy to find high net worth prospects now. Like there's a lot of public database, or not public, but like paid databases where you can literally get a list of people and rank them by their net worth, or their income. Taking it a step further, so someone wants to work with high net worth clients, how do you match as many relatable aspects as possible to help them identify their niche or their ICP?
Yeah, yeah. So one of the things that I teach people is it's not enough just to target, quote, high net worth people. Ultimately, the riches are in the niches. And one of the exercises I have my clients, my advisors that I coach and speak to go through is a 5 and 5 exercise, Joe. So what I do is I say, I want you to look at your last 5 clients, most recent ones you brought on, and then I want you to look at your 5 favorite clients. And I said, what we're looking for in the 5 most recent is what is the problem they came to you to help them solve?
Right.
And then, second, what was the emotion they were feeling when they came to you? Were they nervous, anxious, worried, unsure? And then, what is the emotion they now feel working with you? Are they confident, optimistic, assured of the future? And also, the goal is to examine of your past 5, are those 5 people even people you like to work with?
Yeah.
Often we get so busy we realize, why am I working with this person? You realize you've not held true to who you want to work with. And now the other 5 favorite clients, these are the people that do whatever you ask them to do. They respect you. They love you. When you see their name on your calendar, you smile big. You often socialize with them outside the office.
Sure.
So the same thing. What problem did they come to you to solve? What emotion did they feel before they met you? And what emotion do they feel now? And the purpose of that is that's what I call your focus group. There's no expensive marketing research needed or research and development. You're simply having your clients tell you what problem you're solving. And so this was the problem I had as a financial advisor. I felt overlooked. I would talk to people, I would say I'm a financial advisor, eyes glaze over, door closes. So instead, I created what I call the you know how framework. It's basically a way to answer the question, so what do you do for a living? And so mine, as I looked at my recent 5, I looked at my favorite 5, there was a fear of people had of running out of money in retirement. And so I would say when people ask, so Derrick, what do you do? You know how so many people worry about running out of money in retirement? We help fix that. Then
Cool.
I would say about the process, and I would say we specialize in retirement income planning, period. Now, in any of that, Joe, did I say the words financial advisor?
No.
Did I say wealth advisor, dream funder, private equity capitalist, AI specialist? No, I just connected with pain. And if you want to make it rain, connect with pain. And so that exercise allows everybody listening to say, you know how, and then insert the person you want to work with. It might be highly paid, overstressed professionals who feel chained to the office. We help them fix that. It
Yeah.
might be we work with successful founders and business owners who lay awake at night worrying about will their kids have the knowledge to not squander all they've worked hard for. You see, all of it sounds so simple, Joe, but the key is you want to talk on a 3rd grade level.
Yeah.
You want to run it by a 3rd grader and say, hey, does this make sense? Because advisors, we have this natural gene born inside of us to overcomplicate everything. We've got to use 5-syllable words. We've got to act like the smartest person in the room. And what we know is the smartest person in the room makes other people feel like the smartest person in the room. But if you want this year, I think, to be a better year than last year, when you're asked, What do you do for a living? Remember my you know how framework. Just simply say, and you want to use your tone so you sound concerned and worried and you talk low and slow. I like to say, go brisket. I live here in Texas. I love my barbecue, and they cook brisket low and slow. And so when
Yeah,
you talk a little bit lower and a little bit slower, you sound more empathetic and caring. Joe,
right.
you know how so many people worry about running out of money in retirement? We help them fix that as I slightly nod my head. And people lean in and say, tell me more about that. That's the goal.
That's really cool. So you've got this 5 and 5. I actually should run this 5 and 5 on like my own clients.
It's very
Have,
effective, whatever business you're in. Yep.
yeah. And then the other one's the you know how
You
answer
know
to
how framework.
what
Mhm.
do you do? Cool. Do you have I'd love to, so you have your book behind you. I'd love to talk a little bit about the book and then how it does it relate to the work you do with advisors, or is that kind of a separate initiative?
Yeah, so actually, it's a little bit separate. So I sold my practice about 4 years ago, and I just wanted to solve this problem for advisors of look, if I feel overlooked, I was a top 1% advisor who just ground it out. I want to make it easier for people. I've been to the top of the mountain, I've come back down. I want to help other people who want to go up that mountain. But one of the things I found, this was right before COVID, Joe, to give you context. I would talk to clients and they would say to me, Derrick, I keep hearing in the media that money may be bad. It's
Hmm.
like, what? Who's telling you that? Well, if you have a lot of money, people think you're holding other people back from opportunities, you're keeping money away from them, you're not sharing it. And I said, where are you hearing this? They said, well, on the news and so forth. And so I began to really hit hard on this concept that money is not bad and good people deserve more of it.
Hmm.
But what I realized was when people are simply making a bulging bank account their number one goal, that leads to burnout. We see a lot of people who let their family go, they let their friends go, they just want to make a lot of money, and they eventually reach the top of the mountain and they look around and nobody's there with them. They just
Yeah,
hear them go. They're all by themselves. And what
yeah.
I find was, and what I created, this came out of some client conversations, was when you can connect meaning to your money and purpose to your profits and a cause to your cash, well, now it gives you a reason to go make a lot of money. Go make a lot of money to help a lot of people so then you can give to help a cause that you care deeply about. To me, that was the antidote to burnout. I was on a podcast about a year or so ago, and a woman said, Derrick, I bought your book. And she consulted with high net worth people. And one of her clients wanted to sell his business. She said to the person, I just read Derrick's book, and here's what you should do. You should keep your business, but instead use it to make as much money as you can to then give away as much money as you can.
Yeah.
So it allowed this person to grow the business even bigger, but the motivation no longer was just, I just want to pad my bank account. He picked a cause he cared about and put money in that, which gave him fulfillment. So every night when his head hit the pillow at night, he felt satisfied and meaningful.
No, that's really good. What was your experience selling the business? Because I know a lot of people when they reach a goal, whether they're Olympic athletes or sell a business for millions of dollars, they get depressed afterward because they've lost their purpose in a way. So, did you have a plan for after you sold, like pre-sale, or did you go through a bit of a dip where you're trying to figure out what you wanted to do next?
Well, I like the word loss. I
Yeah,
think you hit the nail on the head there. It's really a grieving process. And let me kind of take a couple steps back. I thought I was the best financial advisor there was. But
right.
what I realized, Joe, was if I'm going to sell my practice, I needed to hand my clients up and not off.
Yeah,
I needed to find somebody who was better than me
sure,
to be legit. I couldn't dump off my clients to some less than and walk away with cash and feel good about it.
sure.
And so it was a very humbling exercise to shove humble pie in my face. But one of the things that I did, and a quick story, when I was in the sixth grade, we moved from New York to Texas. And we had a dentist, his name was Dr. Hilton. Well, he was my dentist my entire way from sixth grade to even when I was in college. And he was more than a dentist. We would talk about investments and life, and I would actually look forward to going to the dentist. It was like a business consulting conversation.
Nice.
Well, one day I'm in the chair and he says, Derrick, this will be the last time you see me because I'm selling my business.
Hmm.
It hit me like a ton of rocks. I was like, what? And literally, I was grieving for a few months the loss of my dentist. What's happening here?
Yeah.
And years later, when I began the process of selling my business, I said to myself, I don't want any of my clients to feel like I felt in that dentist chair. And so I called each of my clients one on one. And I got to tell you, Joe, there's been a lot of hard things I've done in life. That was probably one of the hardest.
Hmm.
And I would each call I made to let them know why I was selling and how much they meant to me. It was like pressing a button and our entire history got played back together. Births and deaths and marriages and adoptions and becoming millionaires and losing money, all kinds of stuff. And one lady, though, she summed it up best. She said, Derrick, if you're having a midlife crisis, which is what this sounds like, you should just buy a Corvette. It's a whole lot cheaper. But it took me about a month and a half to call all the clients. And I remember just being honest with you, when I made the last call and hung up, I literally broke down in tears.
Hmm.
It was so much weight that I had carried, wanting to make sure that the practice was transitioned well, that each client felt taken care of and handed off well. The weight just hit me. And even today, my entire team is still there. The practice has grown. And my vision was that clients would say to me, Derrick, you picked a great advisor, and that's what happens. And so it was a good legacy from that standpoint. But I go on a yearly sabbatical every year. I take about 5 days by myself. This was July of 2019. And I ask myself three questions. How do I be a better husband? How do I be a better father? And how do I be a better business owner? And that particular sabbatical, I just was feeling like, what's next? I called it Derrick 2.0. And I wrote down a list of all the things I would like to do. Write a book, launch a podcast, coach, speak, consult. Could I recreate the recurring revenue of my business somewhere else? And shockingly on the list, Joe, was not being a financial advisor.
Yeah.
That's when I knew. That's when I
Yeah.
knew. I didn't want to be like that athlete that you see that hangs around 2 years too long.
Right.
And, they should have retired earlier because I knew if I felt that way, it would affect my team and my wife and myself. And so that's when I began the practice or the process of selling. But I didn't want to retire. I wanted to rewire. And so I had business ideas and goals, and that's what's happening now is just things are beginning to build and grow, but I didn't sell knowing exactly what I wanted to do.
Okay. No, that makes sense. That's really cool. I love the idea of a annual sabbatical. It
Yeah.
feels very selfish though. Like my wife and I, both, whenever we take time for ourselves, we feel like we're being selfish. And I'm learning also. So I'm a Christian, and so it's like
Yes.
God, myself, others, well, family, friends, and then work is fifth. And every single day I try to reorient to those priorities. And people think it's selfish to put themselves second, but the second commandment is love others as yourself. And I'm like, you've got to love yourself. You've got to take care of yourself if you're going to take care of others.
Well, and truly that time away is a time for me to think and pray and journal.
Sure,
And it's candidly, since you mentioned you're a believer as well, it's really where I feel like I hear from God the clearest when
sure.
I'm walking on the beach, when I'm by myself and just listen. What I realized was I tend to run really, really fast. And if I run too fast, I run in a circle and I end up in the
Oh,
same place I started.
yeah,
And so the purpose of my sabbatical is to take 5 days, so basically 1 week out of the year, to know what I'm going to run fast toward the other 51 weeks out of the year. But I want to make sure, I like to say, don't die before you're dead. I feel like God has given us so many gifts and talents and opportunities. I don't want to squander any of them.
yeah. What is there a particular location you like to go to? Is it the mountains, the beach, a cabin?
Yeah, I'm a beach guy.
Okay.
We like Palm Beach Shores, Florida.
Yeah.
On the East Coast. They're a very, very pretty area. When I did my sabbatical where I decided to sell, and I was actually up in Boston, right there at a hotel on the harbor. I just like the water. Something about the water is peaceful to me, the sunrise, the sunset, all those pieces. And it always reminds me it's one of the things, like one of my favorite books, for example, it's called The Richest Man in Babylon.
Yeah.
Very simple book, but I love it because it's about stories. And ultimately what we're telling people as advisors are how do we help them build their story. It's not about the latest, the tech stack, or I've got this technology or this AI access. It's ultimately whatever tools I've got, can I help you as a person who has goals and hopes and dreams get what you want out of life? And that's the goal. I mean, that's why most advisors, when someone dies, they're the first call they make, as even more so than their family sometimes. It's happened to me many, many times.
Yeah. That's interesting. No, I've started to think about life planning, and I know life planning is actually like an actual thing with multiple like certifications and stuff you can get in it. But to be honest, like investment management and financial planning are incredibly boring subjects, and AI is going to make them almost worthless because you can go to ChatGPT to get a great portfolio or get a great financial plan. Um, so I'm gonna write about this, but basically, like if there's 100 basis points on the table, financial planning, investment management are almost zero now. So like
Mm,
99 basis points are the relationship or the expertise, the niche.
yeah.
Um, and the investment management, financial planning is worth almost nothing. Um,
Well, and that's what I tell people now. I mean, if you're a new advisor or you're an advisor who feels stuck, I think right now could be the greatest easy opportunity for you. And that is, if you want to grow, simply identify what is the painful problem that your ideal prospect worries about. Picture your ideal prospect with their spouse on a Friday night, their favorite beverage in their hand on the patio of their house, lamenting, here's what we're worried about. Here's what keeps us awake at night. If you can get into their heads and find out the answer to that and begin to talk about that all the time,
yeah,
you will connect with people in a fresh way that you've never experienced before. I think gone are the days of trying to sell, hey, I've got special AI access, I've got this designation. Even another hot take of mine is I don't think you need a designation for life planning. You
yeah,
just need to simply care about people's lives.
right.
When you do that, people know it and they feel it and they embrace it and they work with you because of it.
So let's join the conversation going on in any listener's head right now. What are they worried about? What are advisors worried about?
Well, so each week I get DMs from advisors around the country.
Right.
And this week, I'll just speak, I like to talk about what's recent and relevant. And so recently, the biggest concern advisors share with me is, Derrick, how do I A, attract higher net worth clients? And B, how do I consistently create a pipeline of those clients? And I was on a group coaching call with advisors this morning, and I asked them, in 2026, you have one decision to make. Are you going to let things happen, or are you going to make things happen? And one by one, make things happen, make things happen, make things happen. Well, the way to do that is you've got to get very clear on the problem, the painful problem that you solve for the exact person you want to work with. And the goal is to be very, very, very narrow, Joe. So many advisors think I need to be all things to all people. But when you are, you're everything to nobody. And the
Right.
example I would give you is, and this is why I think doubling down on yourself as a specialist. Don't say you're an expert because compliance hates that word.
Okay.
But specialist is approved and very good to go with. When you say to someone, I specialize in, people are automatically drawn to you. They're automatically willing to pay more for you because you have a specific medicine for their pain. For example, when I'm on stage, I will hold up a Hershey bar and a Godiva chocolate. And I ask, if you want to give the impression to someone you care more about them, which chocolate should you give them? The Hershey bar or the Godiva chocolate? All the hands say Godiva chocolate.
Right.
Well, the Hershey bar is like $5. Godiva is like $20. And I ask the audience why the difference. Well, the taste, the pricing, the packaging, the perception. And I ask the advisors in the room, point blank, to your prospects and your clients, in your local area, are you viewed as the Hershey bar or the Godiva chocolate? Are you like everybody else, the cheapest, most commoditized option? Or are you the Godiva chocolate, the specialist they want to pay more for? You see, if somebody had a heart issue, would they want to go to the general practitioner who knew a little bit about a lot, or would they want to go to the heart specialist who only worked on hearts 24/7? See, when you begin to define yourself as we specialize in, and you say it a little bit lower and a little bit slower, you automatically connect with people of wealth because they want no people in their lives. So many people think, wow, wealthy people want people just to agree with them. No, 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 no. The smart 3 to 10 million wealthy people, they will pay people to tell them no to keep them from their own mistakes.
Sure.
They know they're one mistake away from blowing the whole thing. And
Yeah.
if you can specialize in just keeping them from making bad mistakes, that can be a specialty in and of its own.
Yeah, for sure. Oh no, I had a thought and then I lost it. Well, I'll just move on. Let's see. Um, specialize. Man, it was really good and it's gone. It just
Okay.
went away.
Let's do that because you have good ideas, Joe.
Oh, I
That's a
know.
shame that we lost that one.
Yeah, no. So, I mean, I wrote a book. This was a draft version. I'm writing a book for 2026 with my technology recommendations. But what I realized, and I worked as a consultant for CRMs for advisors for a year and a half and did a ton of like tech assessments. Technology is not the problem. Like I realized if I want to solve advisors' tech problems, it starts with their mindset,
Mm,
which goes back to their goal, which goes back to I think the biggest problem advisors have is getting clients, which you could call it like organic growth.
yes.
And I think that the industry is blasting advisors with false solutions to organic growth. And I think the actual solution is everything you're saying. And I mean, I call it building a personal brand.
Yes.
Um, I think financial advisors need to build a personal brand. And whether it's writing, podcasting, YouTubing, meeting local people for coffee, like they've got to become known for something.
Well, think about this. People will work with Merrill Lynch, they'll work with the RIAs, Ameriprise. I mean, ultimately, they pick a company to work with, but most importantly, that decision is predicated on the person that they're working with. You say they know, like, and trust that advisor first. They typically don't make the decision, okay, you work with this company, then I'm going to work with somebody there. You see, the company is secondary. It just establishes and reinforces the trust. And so, what I tell people is people today, they like uniqueness. This is like the greatest opportunity for advisors to stand out and market themselves than ever. People like unique. Like when I see a LinkedIn bio of someone that says, I specialize in helping pickleballers in this community achieve wealth. I'm
Yeah,
like, dude, that is so niche, but it's like, that's me. And so many advisors think I'm a financial advisor for higher net worth families. That means nothing. Instead, you want to pick a pain point and you want to pick at it. You want people to feel like, unless I work with you, I'm going to feel uneasy and can't sleep at night. I've got to work with this person to help me solve this painful problem. So I think a personal brand, but as I like to say, words equal wealth. Ultimately, when you think about it, Joe, the best brand are the words that you say to build trust and connection. When someone asks you for the first time, what do you do for a living? Typically, that's the first time you've ever met them. And you've got about 7 seconds to build trust and rapport fast. What we
sure.
know is saying financial advisor gets you nothing. Saying
Negative.
negative, yeah. You know how so many people worry about insert who it is and the worry, we help them fix that. You
Yeah.
see, that opens a doorway for somebody to say, now what? Now tell me more about that. Because the goal is a conversation. Ultimately, nobody sells on the first initial contact,
Yeah.
but it's the conversation that leads you to those opportunities.
That's something I'm finding for real. Like I've built a sizable audience and an email list. I never sell from an email. Like every single one of anything I sell comes after a Zoom meeting. And I'm finding that I thought people would buy off an email. Like they would see the value in an email and click buy. And I'm learning that every single sale comes after a Zoom meeting. So it's almost like a given. All the purpose of all your marketing is to get to a meeting, whether it's in person or Zoom or however, but like
Yeah.
it seems like that's the point of all the marketing.
I could not agree more. And it's interesting because what people often confuse is activity over true relationship. I was talking to an advisor recently that wanted to email blast a couple thousand people. And I said, okay, if you do that, let me predict what will happen. You're going to write the email, you're going to feel all excited, you're going to press send, and then there's going to be a sound that sounds like crickets. They're going to be in the background, and maybe three people will respond, and two of them will not be ideal, maybe one person. And how sticky is the relationship from someone that they got an email from you and not a warm referral, or they met you face to face or voice to voice? Oh, very, very low. So, my theme, Joe, this year is one person at a time. It feels slow, but if you want to go and grow, you've got to go slow.
Yeah.
When people care about you and want to help you, one introduction can open up an entire world of opportunity, but you want to be strategic about it. One of the things I teach people is if you want to get a intro to someone you don't even know, if you're on LinkedIn or you're somehow connected, simply say to them, "Hey, I've got a crazy idea I'd like to discuss with you, but I'm not sure if it's a fit or not. Would you be opposed to a quick 20-minute Zoom to discuss?
Yeah.
Warm regards, your name."
Yeah.
My hit rate when I send that is about 90%
Nice.
because psychologically, people love the word crazy. They like to be part of something crazy.
Yeah.
I've also said, don't know if it's a fit or not. So I'm not
Right.
saying I'm going to sell you anything. And then when you go negative, would you be opposed to a quick 20-minute Zoom? And I name the time frame. It's like, no, I wouldn't be opposed to that. So it just gives them yes, 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 easy ways to connect. And then once you're on the line, and Joe, we met a year ago. This is why we're here today. We,
Right.
we began to build a relationship. But if we had just emailed back and forth, we wouldn't be on here today. It's all about, do you find commonality? And the way you do that is you got to go face to face or voice to voice.
Yeah, for sure. No, I heard you on Kitz's podcast and I was like, oh, I need to have him on my podcast.
Yeah, he is a really good podcast host.
Oh,
He
absolutely.
worked me hard. We were on there for over an hour,
Yeah.
and the feedback has been off the charts. I'm thankful for that. People are really resonating
Yeah.
with the message. It's making them money and helping them attract clients, which is great. But when you called, I was like, of course, this is Joe Moss. I'm not missing his podcast.
So quickly and then we'll jump off because I think we both have something after this. But cost to acquire a client is around $3,000 from what I've heard. It might be higher than that. So if advisors value their time at $1,000 an hour, and some people say it should be 1,500, basically, if you're going one at a time, spend 3 hours on three people, and you'll win one of them. And I think that is how you win high net worth clients versus AI slot blasting 3,000 people.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
Yeah,
The key is, if I had to give people a takeaway here, is to decide how many clients do you want to bring on in 2026.
yeah,
Because once you know the what, then it's just a matter of determining the how. I'm going to bring on 50 clients. Well, now I know the number, and I like to skew low, and I say, okay, if let's say you have a 10% conversion rate, very, very low, but it's going to generate more activity if it's higher, how many people do I need to talk to or get referred to or meet as COIs or be in the community to develop that number of leads that could net me 50 clients? Because if you ask the question and answer it, I don't want to let things happen, I want to make things happen, then you got to be strategic every day with your key performance indicators, your KPIs. Am I doing the exact activity every single day? I don't know the results, but I know the activity, if I do them consistently, will lead to the results I want. And here's the urgency that I have, Joe. You probably see this. Other advisors meet clients and they happen to say who their advisor is, and they think to themselves, what? I am a way better financial advisor than that guy. Why are you working with him or
Right.
her? And you got to think, well, that person did something you didn't do to secure that client. So the urgency is there's plenty of clients, there's plenty of opportunity. But if you want this year to be your best year, identify the painful problem you help solve for the exact client you want to work with. And you articulate that over and over so it gets even boring. You're like, oh, this is so boring, but it's so effective. You will attract the clients you've always wanted, and you'll build a seven-figure plus, probably plus plus business.
Nice. Perfect. That's a great place to start. If someone's interested in finding more about you or working with you, what would be the best next step?
Yeah, well, I produce content each day actually on LinkedIn at Derrick Kinney. You can go to our website, which is successforadvisors.com. We also put out what I'm told is one of the most read, besides yours, of course, Joe, one of the most read and productive newsletters in the country as well at
Sweet.
successforadvisors.com.
Awesome. I'll make sure I'm subscribed as well because I'm not sure that I am. All right. Well, thanks so much, Derek, for coming on. This has been a blast. And I'm excited to get it out.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Joe.
All right. Talk to you later. Bye bye.